Okay, how to set something square up in a 4-jaw chuck. So we've got a 4-jaw chuck, a lathe and a dial indicator. Just put it in so that it visibly looks reasonably central. And this is a bit strange for me because I usually have the gauge on this side. So I put it on the other side so it doesn't get in the way of the camera. And this metal is larger than I can do with this gauge just by lifting the arm and rotating the stock. The corners will hit. So I've got to slide it forwards every time. Now we find a low spot, and that's what the stock's obviously angled a lot, so the gauge isn't central. And when I look, I can see the gauge is miles out. Lower the gauge a bit. The gauge is fairly. So we're at 75. And we're at 155. So it wants to be at something like 15. This is really odd. I'm working back to front from what I usually do. So we're at 115, around 180 degrees. We're at 113. 0 is it that? 0. And we're at 1. So that is now central on those two faces. So now we have to do the other two faces, and the bar is quite likely not square, which we'll find out if we put it at 0. Okay, so that is 0 on that face. So if we turn it another 180 degrees, and we'll see how to square this bar is now. Oh, not far. It's reading 2.5. So I reckon the bar's 2.5 now out of square, so let's measure it. .91 that way. So we'd expect this now to be 0.3 mil under. .89.88. So there you have it. One square bar centered. Okay, you couldn't read the 50mm face gauge, so what I've done is I've just added it's focused on it, I think, yeah. I've added a 4-inch diameter gauge. Now on this face we've got 4,000, this is a 1/10 of a thou gauge, so that is 4,000th of an inch. I'm just checking, I'm not adjusting this. So, move that off the face, turn it around 180 degrees, and let's see what this gauge shows. And that is 4 thou. So that is central. Now move it 90 degrees. We'd hope that it's pretty close this way. Okay, we've got 4,500th of an inch. Turn it 180 degrees. And let's see what this one says. .3 thou. So in one direction it's centered within a 1/10 of a thou, in the other direction it's actually a 1/10 of a thou out. That's not at all bad. Where the gauge is doesn't actually matter if it's pointing at the centre. You can move it around a bit and it will still show exactly the same, but if you move it a lot it will show difference. I don't fancy videoing a lot, but you can, if you mark the centre, put the gauge there, centre it, then offset it 1/8 of an inch, you'll find it reads exactly the same. That's all there is to it. Works exactly the same with a 3x1 bar, funnily enough. With the 3x1 you'd centre the two sides, then you'd move the gauge and centre the other two sides independently. It's just a round bar trying to escape, really. If you actually think about it, there's a round bar in there, and I'm indicating on the diameter as normal. Hope that was some help. And the actual time to set up that was probably less than a minute. Admittedly I have done it once or twice before, but it shouldn't be any problem. And if you actually want to set a point, You can do that centre method, or another way is if you drill a hole, check it's round, and then use an indicator with a finger. You use an indicator like this. You can indicate in, or you can put a dowel in the end and indicate with a gauge. That works quite a bit of the time. In fact, I use one of these most of the time on external diameters. Okay, just in case anyone wondered what I was on about when I was speaking about gauge travel, here's a 1-inch gauge. Now, 1-inch gauge is going to clear, so if I stick a 1-inch gauge there, this is the way I usually use the gauge on this side, so I'm used to which I'm automatically move the metal in the right direction. So I've actually got a reading, you can't see this I know, so I'm actually reading 0, and this is in thousandth of an inch. Now I pull that back, I can rotate it 180 degrees, and I'm reading 0. Rotate it 90 degrees, and it's a fraction of a thousandth of an inch under. Rotate it 180 degrees, fraction of a thousandth of an inch under. So that's how I would usually do it. And doing it this side, I automatically know which direction to shift the stock in, whether it's got to go up or down. When it's on the other side, I'm working in reverse to what I usually work. That's why it took me so long to set it up. Of course, you can use the indicator at the top, but then you can only adjust one jaw and you've got to turn the chuck. Whereas doing it this with the indicator at the side, you can work out where the centre is from 2 readings, and then you can move the stock to the correct position.